everyone. I just wanted to come on and do a short video today about the Nodal Axis moving into Aquarius and Leo, which it's doing the true node moves in on the 26th of July and will stay in those opposing signs, North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo, until March 2028. I have an 18.6 month cycle. And the last time the North Node was in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo was in from December 2007 until August 09. So if you can remember, if you look back to those years and remember what was happening in your life then, that can be very helpful because there's normally an echo of whatever you were doing last time around. And the houses that they are falling in will prompt your memory. For instance, for me, they are straddling the 3rd house and the 9th house. I have a North Node in Aquarius, a South Node in Leo. So back in 2008 to going into 2009, I was actually studying for my master's qualification in astrology. I've mentioned that in the last update, but this time around, of course, I'm studying shamanism now. So again, it's a metaphysical study and there's a kind of spiraling upwards. So if you can remember, that's helpful. So, and I'm just going to give some short explanations of these pairs of houses because it's an axis. The nodal axis is an axis. It has two ends, the North Node end and the South Node end. And therefore, that opposing pair of houses will be very activated for the next 18 months until March 2028, because that's where the eclipses broadly will fall as well. Now, just a word really about the nodes in terms of your natal chart, because I believe that the nodes always have a sense of destiny about them. They are the most destined part of our charts, I believe, and I think that's true collectively as well as individually. I believe that they aim to lead our evolution because the North Node is about either your individual or the collective soul's path of growth going forwards, and the South Node is what you've already learnt. You don't have to leave it behind. You can integrate it with your with who you are now. You don't have to abandon it. But the compass needle, if you like, is your North Node. And I very much see it as a compass needle individually in your birth chart. In fact, when I was writing, this was my second book, as many of you know, How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe. And this was all about the nodes. And it's a workbook. And so you can take your own birth chart and work with this as a workbook to better understand your nodal axis, start to incorporate some other parts of the chart. And it helps greatly with your self-understanding because I believe that the nodes are possibly the deepest aspect of you because they operate at the soul level, not so much at the personality level, at the soul level. There is so much to know about the nodes. And while I was writing that book, and actually you need minimal astrology to be able to work with that book because it really takes you from zero all the way through. And when I was writing the book, I kept having a vision of the birth chart going from being a circle to almost having a compass needle. So it became like almost a teardrop shape with the North Node being the compass needle and the whole rest of the chart being the cavalry backing up the North Node, because that's where we have to head in our lifetime as individuals to achieve any kind of soul's growth, soul satisfaction in this life, and the rest of the chart back it up. And it's fascinating once you start to go through the layers of that. And I believe that's also true collectively as well, but it's very clear to see when you're working with your own chart individually. And when the outer planets, particularly planets Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, come to aspect your nodal axis, particularly by conjunction, you will very likely have some profound experiences. They could be quite paranormal, spiritual. They could be past parallel life experiences that you have flashbacks, or that people come into your life from different lifetimes. It becomes quite mystical, because I believe that the nodal axis actually looks like an infinity symbol. It's weaving the 8, if you like, and it weaves the 8, I believe, of your soul's path through many, many lifetimes. So I believe the North Node and the South Node actually act like portals into other dimensions and other lifetimes. And when you have strong aspects, as I've just described, to your nodal axis, either end, you can kind of start to access some of those different experiences in different lifetimes and different dimensions. It's like the veil is very thin around each end of the axis, and it's the South Node, as I say, individually is what we've already learned, but that is more representative of your past life or past lives, or parallel lives, if you want to call them that. And the North Node, as I say, is where we're headed. Now, I have 3 separate teaching videos on the nodes. One is very simple. It's the video companion to the book to extend the knowledge of the book. And I'll put the link for that below. The other 2 teaching videos are not beginners videos, so I don't want you to waste your money if you're a beginner. And they are an advanced nodes webinar I did a few years ago, and also something which is more advanced called the alchemy of relationship, which includes looking at the nodes between 2 people, because the nodes are incredibly powerful in relationship astrology, incredibly powerful. Even when you don't seem to get a match anywhere else, you know, the suns and moons aren't matching up, the Mercuries, you know, other things just aren't making any sense in how strong that relationship chemistry appears to be. But if you look at the nodes, that can explain a great deal, because it's a past or parallel life connection that runs really deep. They run like super glue. However different you appear in this lifetime, and however different your interests are and you are as people, there's something very mystical and almost, you know, inexplicable about how people who have nodal contacts just have to be together for periods in their lives, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship. Very often you reconvene in this lifetime as part of a family group. I could go on and on, actually. But anyway, we must focus just on where the nodes are moving to collectively. But just so you know that, because I find them absolutely fascinating, and I think I'm just really scratching the surface and need to dig much deeper. Anyway, back to what it means for the collective. So the transiting North Node moving into Aquarius on the 26th of July, and that means that the transiting South Node is moving into Leo at that time. It's an axis, okay? They move together. And the nodes aren't actually planets. They are points in space that are created by the orbit of the moon. But it's remarkable how powerful they are, considering they are points in space. And in your birth chart, of course, they are points in space from that moment of birth all those years ago. And yet they still resonate incredibly, incredibly powerfully through your life. So with the North Node in Aquarius, that is going to reinforce all of the themes I've talked about with Pluto in Aquarius across many videos going all the way back to 2023. But just to reiterate those themes, I mean, on the less positive side of the expression of Pluto in Aquarius, it's about technology. Pluto is about control by technology. It's interesting that in November 2027, next year, Pluto is going to become exactly conjunct the North Node. Remember, the nodes move backwards, so they enter a sign at 29 degrees 59 minutes of the sign, and they progress all the way through to 0 and then enter the next sign, which will be 29:59 of Capricorn next March 2028. So this is a lot about technological innovation. Worst case, controlled by technology. We can see very easily how that's a potential theme. AI data centers that are very big in the news right now. Invisible government, everything being digitized ID. Positively, this is really the recognition that everything is frequency, everything is energy. Think of the two jaggedy lines, the glyph of Aquarius. And of course, everything always has been energy and frequency. We just haven't been very aware of it. So the very positive side of Aquarius is it's about networks, it's about community, collaboration, finding your tribe of frequency, coming together with like-minded people. Yes, it's a lot to do with innovation, wonderful innovations. These could be healing innovations. It could be a lot to do with aviation, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and both the sign and the planet are about aviation, rapid developments in aviation. So I think we're going to see an enormous amount of that, maybe zero gravity transport in coming times. Nassim Harriman, I know, is working on that and sees that as a possibility in the next few years. I think aviation is going to change out of all recognition in the coming years. Remember, Pluto stays in Aquarius long term. So this is also very futuristic. It's also about finding your unique expression, finding your individuality at a deeper level than you have ever done before, but also understanding how that individual essence or gift fits in with the whole. To contribute, that's your gift to the whole. Because the Aquarius energy is very much about the group, the people, the network, the tribe. So it's quite paradoxical that you feel more individual than you've ever felt before, but equally you want to give back to the tribe. So it's very humanitarian, it's more egalitarian, that's certainly than Leo, we'll come on to in a moment. And it's very rebellious, revolutionary energy, because again, it's ruled by Uranus, hugely about freedom. Freedom of the people, the revolution of the people. We know Pluto is going to be out of bounds to the south until 2035. Look at the fabulous research of Rosie Finn that I've referred to so many times. Old relationships are going to fall away as new frequency connections come online very strongly. But because whatever the sign that Pluto is moving through, it tends to intensify and catalyze that sign, the symbolism of that sign. And we've now got the North Node in Aquarius too. It's a real double whammy on that focus. So technology and AI are going to go like a storm. They're going to develop so fast, and we have to be very aware of that and make the right choices. The ruler of Aquarius is Uranus in Gemini. Be very conscious and wise and thinking strategically and long term about the choices you make about things like AI. And again, I've spoken about that in some detail. So the South Node is in Leo, and that, when we look at the South Node, we tend to look at what in part we are leaving behind, but also integrating to create better balance. Aquarius, remember, is much more equitable, wants a more horizontally based society, not a vertically based society. And so with the South Node in Leo, I think this will see in the next 18 months or so a lot of the end of grandiosity and narcissism and privilege, elitism, entitlement in leadership, because Leo is very much about leadership, the gross inequality, the almost obscene flaunting of wealth. Louis XVI's Golden Palace is what comes to mind. And it's very much about the individual leader. It's about celebrity, it's about royalty, it's about those that we have worshipped on a public stage, all of that kind of worship and idolatry, if you like, is going to come into question, because North Node in Aquarius emphasizes, strengthens this theme of the power moving to the people, the power moving to the people. And so this will birth a much more heart-centered leadership at its best. Leo, the heart, that's one of the best expressions of this nodal axis. For sure, it will evolve our sense of leadership, because an awful lot of corruption is going to come to light, and that's going to wake people up to say, what are we doing that, we wouldn't tolerate these standards in ourselves, let alone our extremely well-paid leaders. What are we doing? So I think there will be a very strong demand for greater accountability, transparency, and greater equability in society. And that isn't just for the next 18 months, it's the whole period while Pluto is in Aquarius as well. Now, it's very helpful to look at which pair of houses this nodal axis is falling across, because obviously it's got two ends. And so these are just very simple explanations for you, and you can, again, dig deeper into the material I just suggested if you'd like to. The North Node end is obviously your growth end, your compass needle, your focus, and the South Node is what you've already learnt and is falling away. So which pair of houses? If it's first and seventh, this is very much about relationship, particularly the seventh house. And the first house is about your own sense of identity and confidence, the way you project yourself in the world. But that whole axis is really about relationship. Second and eighth, second is very much to do with self-worth, but also money, your income. And the eighth house is other people's money. If you're married or in a long-term relationship, you might have joint finances. It's about shared values as well as joint money. It's also a deep house of spirituality as well, spiritual learning, diving deep, psychotherapy, that kind of thing. Third and ninth is very much about learning, studying, writing, broadcasting, disseminating, teaching. Third house is very much about your local day-to-day life. It's the Gemini house. So it's your neighbors, your friends, your siblings, your day-to-day coming and going. That's third house. Whereas ninth house is much more metaphysical, reaching out to the cosmos, and much more expansive. Fourth and 10th, that's about your personal domestic life, the life of the home and the family and your loved ones, versus your career or your work in the world, which is being emphasized right now, and which has to sort of take a step back, as it were, for a while. Fifth and 11th, this is a very social axis. The fifth house is your house related to children, creativity, games, speculation, all that kind of thing. The 11th house is friendships, network groups, political affiliations, social media, also a sense of your individual purpose in the world as well. 6th and 12th, as you probably know, they are very related to health. 6th house, obviously health. 12th house tends to be more critical health sometimes. And they also highlight things like 6th house being of practical service to people, 12th house being of spiritual service to people. 6th house, pets. 12th house, large animals, horses, elephants, that kind of thing. And so these are just very, very basic, simple expressions of those house areas, but you can dig much deeper with the material. And just to say as well, if you are born with the North Node in Aquarius, every 18.6 years, you are going to have what's called a nodal return, where the transiting North Node comes back to your natal position. So if you have the North Node in Aquarius, over the next 18 months, you are going to experience this, depending on the degree that is at. And that is a really good time. Again, lived at the soul level rather than the personality level, but you feel as if you're on the right track, you're on a mission. This feels like the right path to go on. You feel very satisfied at the soul level. Yep, this is absolutely right for me. So that comes around every 18.6 years. The transiting north node square, 90 degrees to your natal nodal axis, comes around more often because, of course, there are 2 points at which they can do that, one side of the axis and the other. And that really does act like a crossroads for you in terms of which choice do I now make? Which direction do I go in? Do I stay with the current situation, which feels like I've exhausted all the soul growth in it? Or do I pivot to something new and unknown in order to gain more soul's growth and leave the old behind? So it's very much a crossroads time. The nodal reversal, which is where where the transiting north node comes to conjunct your natal south node, is like a closure of the deep past. Closure of the deep past. And I mean deep, deep past, as in past parallel lives, things that might have been leaking through from other lives that might have interfered in some way with this current life, that are now coming up to be cleared. I mean, when I was writing this book, How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe, I was diving really deep into a very, very important life as a Cathar Perfecti in France, particularly around the early 1200s. Very strong years, 1210, 1211. That's when I was polished off in the early months of 1211. So, and that lifetime was leaking through into this one and creating all kinds of issues with a small French house I had at the time. So it can really be a very mystical time, a deep time, and you can feel as if you're kind of in Harry Potter land, you're in a different dimension, but it enriches your life immensely. So beginning to understand the nodes, and as I say, I think I'm just at the beginning, I think is one of the most fruitful journeys you can go on, because there's just so much to discover about them. But they do have a sense of destiny. They do have a sense of fate. And that's about the only area of the chart I would say that about, because I think we have an enormous amount of free will, actually. The chart, as I've said many times, is just your birth chart is just your sheet of music, and it's up to you how magnificently you play it in this lifetime. So I hope that's helped you. There's going to be so much more, of course, as we move through the coming months and we look at aspects to the nodal axis and planetary transits to it. And it is a very rich pot of gold to look at. God bless. Hope that's helped you. Be back very soon with something different again. Bye for now.